Gonna get into another movie review. It is a movie mic double feature. Like if you would go to a drive-through movie and get not only one, but two movies for the price of one. That is what's happening right now. Another movie review for you because there's so many movies to review right now. I thrive in the summer. So I actually watch these movies both on the same weekend, but now I want to get into my review of Asteroid City, one of my most anticipated movies of the summer, because for me, Wes Anderson is a top 5 director, but I get that he is not for everybody. And his movies have such a unique style, such a unique tone, cinematography, dialogue, that I can see why you either love or hate his work. It has just always spoke to me from his very first early movies. He had my heart at Bottle Rocket. And I'll go into every Wes Anderson movie now feeling like it is an event. And that's where I want to start when talking about Asteroid City, what the movie is about. The way the movie is described, anyway, in its tagline is world-changing events spectacularly disrupt the itinerary of a junior stargazer slash space cadet convention in an American desert town circa 1955. That is essentially what this movie is about. You have Jason Schwartzman character who is a dad with his son and 3 daughters. They break down in this small little desert town called Astroid City. So you have all the other really smart kids, their parents, and the people who live and work in the town. All the events connect back into the characters being there for that convention. But of course, in true Wes Anderson fashion, it also pulls back from that and you learn other things about what's going on with these characters. And really, it's almost like a play coming to life. And there's a very meta, overarching theme and overarching message that this movie was trying to make. But really, for me, I just love the story that carried out in Asteroid City. And every time it was there, and the colors were so vibrant and rich, and all the camera shots and positions were just perfect to me, aesthetically, this movie was exactly what I needed in my life right now. It is the best looking Wes Anderson movie he has ever done. And when I say going to a Wes Anderson movie to me feels like an event, that is exactly the experience I had. So I went to go watch this movie at the Belcourt in Nashville, which is a historic theater that has been here for almost 100 years. And I'm so glad I went to see it there, picking it over my normal Regal theater because it felt like going to a concert. I think Wes Anderson is a type of director to have a really passionate fan base, and this movie was never going to be one that was going to dominate at the box office, despite Tom Hanks, Scarlett Johansson, Margot Robbie, Jason Schwartzman, and all these other A-list actors inside of this movie. That's just not exactly how this movie is going to perform. It doesn't have the same kind of marketing. It's a very niche audience going into it, so in no world was this movie expected to make a lot of money. But the crazy thing is, he has such a passionate fan base that this entire theater was sold out. I've never seen a movie completely sold out where there was a butt in every single seat in the theater, and the lobby was alive with people buzzing, talking about the movie, explaining Wes Anderson to maybe somebody who got drug along to this movie and didn't know what to expect, which is exactly what the situation I was in, because Kelsey really isn't a big fan of Wes Anderson's work. She thought she really wasn't going to enjoy this movie, but ended up really liking it. So I think if you haven't been into his work before, if there were any movie to really get you into it, it would be this one, because there are even some of his movies that I don't fully enjoy. I was coming off of rewatching a lot of them, and I rewatched The French Dispatch, and I still don't really get that movie. It was hard for me to stomach that a second time. So even for me, being as big of a fan of his that I am, I still think at times he can be hit or miss when things get too meta and maybe a little bit too artsy-fartsy for even my taste. But I don't really think that was the case with Asteroid City. There are some elements of that where it kind of pulls back the curtain, so it's like a play inside of a movie. But I really enjoyed that aspect of it, and I feel like unlike some of his other movies, it was a lot easier to pay attention to all of the changes and figure out exactly what he was trying to say and exactly what was going on in the entire movie. Sometimes, even myself, I get a little bit lost. So overall, I still feel like his movies are a bit of an acquired taste. It's like drinking coffee or beer for the first time. You're probably going to hate it upon that first sip. But take another chug, take another swig, and eventually I think it'll grow on you. And if it doesn't, probably just not for you whatsoever. And that's fine. But what I really love about Wes Anderson is his attention to detail. And filmmaking in 2023, I feel like some things are a bit of an afterthought when it comes to soundtrack, when it comes to visual effects, really when it comes to just cinematography and framing the movie in a way to give it a distinct style. I feel like sometimes those things just kind of go out the window and people are just trying to crank out movies, get them in theaters, and make money. But with every single scene, every single shot, I feel like there's intention to give you something on the screen that you haven't seen before or from an entirely different perspective. And that is what I love. And you guys know, I talk about it all the time. I love color palettes in a movie. One of my favorite things to do in my free time is to study scenes and just look at the different color palettes used and the decisions to pick these certain colors to invoke different emotions in the audience. I just love that. And every single detail in the color in this movie was magnificent. And I love that he committed to this saturation look to give it a very 50s old school retro vibe. And it just kept my eye on the screen the entire time. I also love the wardrobe in this movie, which is another really great thing about Wes Anderson movies. So much so that I dressed up going to this movie, and I normally go as comfortable as possible to the movies. But again, I felt like this was an event, like I was going to a concert. So I wore clothes to this movie that I would wear if I was ever cast in a Wes Anderson film. So you have his attention to detail, everything from whenever Jason Schwartzman and Tom Hanks are having a conversation on the phone, that their audio is panned from left to right. So say Jason Schwartzman's character is on the left side of the screen, Tom Hanks's character is on the right side of the split screen. Their dialogue matches up. So in the theater, you'll hear Jason Schwartzman's audio only coming in on the left speakers, and Tom Hanks's audio will only come in on the right speakers. I don't really think I've seen that utilized in a movie before. I know I've heard it like on albums and records, but never before in movie dialogue. I thought that was a really good touch. This movie had so many great performances of people who get his quirky style and quirky delivery in lines, but hands down, Scarlett Johansson for me stole the show. I really love the dynamic between her and Jason Schwartzman's character in this movie, who he's been in basically every single Wes Anderson movie. And although this isn't a straight ahead comedy, I don't think any Wes Anderson movie I would really say, oh, it's going to make you laugh. But there are some funny moments. There was even a movie quote that I remember and still say after watching this movie, and it makes me laugh. Thanks a lot, Ricky. There's also another moment where a character asked them to dare him to climb a cactus. I thought that was funny too. So again, it's not really trying to be funny. It's more quirky than it is just straight on comedy. But what added to the comedic nature of this movie was seeing it in a sold out theater. And I think the reason I had such a great experience with this movie is because I saw it with a lot of like minded people who were all there wanting to have a good time. And I think that really adds to the charm of this movie. When you see other people laughing at things and reacting to things, it makes you want to pay attention more because you want that feeling. So this is definitely a movie that needs to be seen with people. I think if I watched this movie alone on first watch, I don't think I would have enjoyed it as much. So there are some movies that I say require the big screen because of the visual aspect, because of the action that some movies like the Mission Impossible movie coming out this month, I think that is going to require the big screen for a different reason. Same thing with Oppenheimer, same thing with Barbie, or really any Marvel movie. But the reason I feel that Asteroid City demands an in-theater experience is because I think movies like this are much better when they are experienced with other people. So say even if you just go watch this movie with your best friend or family, or you just go to a busier showtime, I think that will greatly add to you enjoying all the aspects that Asteroid City has to offer. I don't think everyone will love or quote unquote get this movie, but I just think it is a fantastic film. I'm so far into enjoying this movie that for the first time ever, I sought out listening to a movie soundtrack. This entire week, I've been listening to the Asteroid City soundtrack. Some of my favorite tracks used in the movie was The Last Train to San Fernando by Johnny Duncan and the Bluegrass Boys. I also love a song called Ida Red by Bob Willis and his Texas Playboys, or another song called Jingle Jangle by Tex Ritter. This movie kind of had a setting of an old school 50s Western, and these songs specifically just really set it in that time. specifically with setting the tone at the very beginning of the movie in that opening sequence, which I thought was another great visual treat. So I think it was the fact that I had really high expectations going into this movie. Mainly, I just didn't want it to suck because I was so excited for it. I'd been hyping it up so much in my head. Just a couple weeks before this, I actually met Tom Hanks, and everything about the movie, from the poster to the trailer to the actors to the director, is everything I look for in a movie. I would easily put this into my top 5 Wes Anderson movies. In that list, at number 5 would be Bottle Rocket, the movie that started it all. That movie will always just have a special place in my heart. With Wes Anderson getting his start in Texas, which is where I am from, and Bottle Rocket being placed and filmed in North Texas, which is where I grew up, I will just always love Bottle Rocket, and him working with Luke and Owen Wilson, which surprisingly, they were in Asteroid City, but they have been in a lot of Wes Anderson movies. At number 4, that's where I would put Asteroid City. Then at number 3, I would put the Royal Tenenbaums. At number 2, I would put Fantastic Mr. Fox. And depending on the day you ask me, that could easily be my number 1, because I feel that Wes Anderson's style really does well with animation. I also love the message of that movie. Mr. Fox struggling with being poor and being outcast and living underground and just wanting to give his family a better life. But at number 1, I would put the Grand Budapest Hotel. It has his signature style, but I feel out of any movie, so when you have the style, when you have the cast, and then his most memorable story to date, that is easily going to be my number 1. But with it living up to my expectations and making its way into my top 5 Wes Anderson movies of all time, for Asteroid City, I give it 4 out of 5 UFOs.